Hey everyone, and welcome to the Babylon Chronicles, a podcast dedicated to taking a look at the inner workings, discussions, and shenanigans involved in making one of the world's most powerful, beautiful, simple, and open web rendering engines, Babylon.js. My name is Jason Carter, also known as Pirate JC, and I'm joined as always by my co-host, the creator and founder of Babylon, Mr. David Kitue. Hi, David.
Hey everyone, I'm always impressed how fast you can say the opening sequence. Like, wow.
It's a lot of words, but when you get used to it, you get used to it.
Yeah,
and we have
you have a very good diction.
Thank you. We have a special guest for this episode, a good friend and honestly extended family member of the Babylon team, Mr. Josh Elster, also known by the community as the author of the official Babylon.js book called Going the Distance with Babylon.js.
Yes.
It is quite weird to see your own name on the front of a book. That is
right.
It's thick as that.
It's thick.
I don't want to humble brag here, but
oh no, you get the spotlight. It's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. Josh, thanks so much for joining us on the podcast, yes. Man. We met 2-3 years ago now, something like that.
Yeah,
I can't quite remember when.
I think it was about this. It was about September of, I think, 2019 it had to have been. And by the way, before we get too far, and thank you for having me on your podcast.
Honestly, it's our pleasure.
Totally our pleasure. Honors, of course.
Yeah, that's right. So Josh reached out to connect and said, hey, I have interest in writing a book about Babylon.js, and we all became fast friends, and we'll get to the whole story in a minute. But before we do, Josh, maybe you could just walk everybody through real quickly a little bit about maybe your background. What happened before you got to the book, and who are you, and where'd you come from, and what interests you?
So who am I? All right, let's get to the real meat of that. Well, by day, I'm actually more of a business software developer. My background is in developing more server-side, cloud-based, and other types of business applications. And doing the 3D programming and the game developing, that was really more of a side thing that I was doing because I've always really enjoyed that. And well, we can get into how I got into Babylon.js specifically with that. But over past, I guess, 10 or 15 years or so, I've kind of done a lot of different things in a lot of different industries, but still mostly with a business focus. A few years back, I worked with the Patterns and Practices team in Microsoft to develop a CQRS architecture guide. And then a few years later, I was messing around with the Windows Terminal team and contributing to that project as well. So
Windows Terminal, all right. That's
yeah. So
there are not a lot of space truckers in that yet.
No, not a lot of 3D visualization in the Microsoft Terminal
command line business. Oh my gosh.
They do support shaders. They're just, I don't think I think they're the HLSL ones though. So I don't think they're
DirectX ones. Yes.
Yeah. Of course. Right. Of course. So, going from these different industries and different things, there is one sort of constant that I've sort of had, I guess, a long time. And that's, I guess, as far as I can remember, I want to say one of the first programming books that I can remember reading was a book on how to program games. And I'm going to date myself a little bit here, but it was old enough that it was structured as one of those teach yourself C and C++ in 21 days type of things. And the thing that blew my mind as a kid at the time I'm reading that, it's like, it had sections on assembly language so you could read the capacitor values from a joystick. And I'm just thinking to myself, what? That doesn't, what?
That's not fun.
Who wants to do that, right?
I thought it was neat. Are you kidding me? I thought it was cool as hell.
Man, we are JavaScript developers. We are not reading capacitors in memory, right?
No. The world has changed a lot.
I'm not going to pretend I understood it. Yeah, but I thought it was cool as hell that you could actually write some magic script down and make machines do your bidding and have them tell you things and make them do things. And that to me has been always one of the most fascinating and things I love about programming and software development in general. So that's I guess that's a really quick breakdown of some of my background is. Currently, I'm working as an engineering manager at a tech startup that does financial insurance trucking insurance.
Oh yeah,
commercial trucking industry.
Yeah, that's why there is a truck on your. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah, it's a weird coincidence that Space Truckers and my employments kind of happened to coincide because I actually started at my current job around the time, about a month or so after I started writing the book and started with Space Truckers.
Interesting.
So, I mean, which one caused the other? Who knows, right?
So you decided to embark on writing a book and take a new job at the same time?
Good idea.
Smart.
I question your judgment.
I did not say I was smart. And 6 months, it'll be fine. I'll be,
Right. Yeah, of course. If we want to see the size of the book again, right? Like so.
This is not a thin brochure by any means.
For reference, I think the original plan size of it was going to be no more than about this much or so. So maybe about half or so.
Yeah, we're talking about 400 pages, just for the sake of everyone.
It did tend to balloon out a little bit. I should have anticipated that, but clearly I did not.
We did not help, but we're gonna talk about that a little bit.
Didn't, but it was great. It was very constructive.
So what was the process actually that made you wake up one day and be like, you know what I want to do? I want to write a book. Forget Babylon
and a book
for
about
a second,
Babylon.js.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, just writing a book and then to teach Babylon. Fascinating. I'd love to hear that story.
So yeah, no problem on that. I have to take it back a little bit here. So let's see here. This was sometime in, I'd say, mid 2019 or so. I was approached by a guy from the Pack Publishing, who published the book, and they said, "Hey, we've read your blog, we've read some of the documentation stuff that you've written, and we'd like to ask you if you've ever thought about writing a book." And I said, "Nope, I have not. Never crossed my mind, not even once." And I said, "Oh, well, do you want to?" I said, "I don't know. I mean, what am I going to write about? I wouldn't have the faintest idea. I don't know what I'm doing." And I said, "Oh, don't worry. We'll help you with with the what you're doing sort of thing. But as for what you want to write about, well, what do you want to write about?" So, there was some back and forth there, and we talked about some ideas. Windows Terminal actually was one of those initial ones because that was right around the time I had done
Going the Distance with Windows Terminal. It would have been a different book.
A much different book, and the book that did end up getting published is probably a much better book for it. There is a Windows Terminal book out there. I'm sorry I don't remember the name of it off my head, but it's a quite decent book. But it's not my book. So and that was what it ended up being, is that I even put together an outline for the book, and I just could not find myself being very enthusiastic about that. And I knew that it was going to involve working a lot of long hours, after work and things like that. And so I just knew that if I was going to do this, it had to be something that I was passionate about and that I actually cared about. That, not to say I don't care about the terminal or anything like that. I just can't imagine writing a book about it. It just wasn't that type of subject for me.
Yeah, totally get that.
So I just told him that flat out, and I was saying, I don't think that's going to work. So then I started thinking, okay, well, why don't I play to my strengths? I work in business software. I could write something on, I don't know, like cloud-based applications or Power Platform or something like that. And I thought about that, put together, sort of some outlines, and it didn't work for me either. I wasn't liking it. I wasn't feeling it. And so I was about at sort of like the end. I was about to say, this isn't going to work out. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to waste your time. And I kind of almost got to that point. And Kaustub is the product manager's name there. And he said to me, well, if you could write about one thing, if there was one sort of area in software development, if you could pick anything, what would that be? And I said, well, I don't think it's a great, in terms of market
joystick capacitors. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, everyone wants to do that, but but really though, Jason, that's great though, because that's literally what I kind of had that in my mind. I was like, I'm just thinking about those first books on software development that I read and just that impact, and Babylon.js was what I thought of, and I said, and we might have to take a little bit of a tangent walk into how I got into Babylon.js, but let's establish for this point that I'd been somewhat familiar with Babylon for about a year and a half by that point. And I knew I really loved it, but I didn't really know what I was getting into yet still. And so Kaustub went off and he did some research and he came back and he said, I'm going to be honest with you. Yeah, there's not great. The numbers don't look good. It's as books go, it's a fairly niche market. Not to say that there aren't a lot of people interested in that. It's just more that compared to other topics, there's not a lot of people interested in that.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, well, that's too bad. And he said, but I do have a meeting set up with this guy at Microsoft. What's his name? David. Yeah, this David guy. And I said, David? What you mean David Katui? I mean, and he's like, yeah, that's the guy. Oh, when do we do it? I mean, I'll set aside my schedule, right? I mean, they actually want to talk to us? What? And I think you folks remember that meeting. It was I think the two of you and Thomas, I believe, right?
Yes, yeah, Thomas was there. Yeah.
In addition, and I made my pitch there. I remember making my pitch to you guys and thinking to myself, there's no way that they are gonna agree to doing a book about Babylon. I mean, it's just not gonna happen. Like, they got better things to do, and like, come on. And well, to your credit, I mean, it must have been like early in the morning or really late at night, or I don't know, maybe you were jet lagged, but you seem to be receptive.
All drunk.
Yeah, there's something in the water, maybe. There was receptivity.
Well, from our perspective, we've got a person who is in the Babylon community who surfaces and says, I want to write a book about this platform. And we're like, well, awesome. Like, why would we say yes?
To prepare that meeting, we were like, okay, the expected outcome is probably he will not be motivated, but we need to support anything. We want that book. Like, literally, we went into this meeting hoping for the book.
Yeah, like, it's like...
I thought that's completely fair. I accept that. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, to be perfectly frank, a huge part of what motivates us is the community, right? A huge part of that. And so to have somebody who's been in our community, who was on the Babylon.js forum, kind of reach out and say, I think I want to write a book. For us, it's like, oh my gosh, this is full circle. This is the community feeding back to itself.
What should we do? Where should we sign?
How do I sign up? Yeah,
it was like, how do we find a way not to say yes too quickly, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so that's incredible, Josh. So that's you obviously packed publishing. Kaustad basically said, okay, cool. After meeting, it seemed like there was some mutual interest, and then the ball started rolling.
Yeah, the ball started rolling from there. I knew that with the book that I was writing, that I'm not an expert in game programming or 3D development and things like that. I know that going in. So to pretend like I was otherwise and to present myself as some type of like, oh, I'm some authority here, I know what I'm talking about, that would be just silly. And it wouldn't be genuine, and it would just flop. It would suck. So I decided that the best way to approach that was to just really lean into that and say, all right, I know that there's a lot of people like me out there who may know some degree, to one level, have experience with software development, even with JavaScript, or maybe even a little bit game development. Maybe it's Unity or Unreal or something. But either way, they want to get more involved, and they want to leverage what they know with learning something new. So that was sort of the genesis of the approach that I wanted to take with the book. And as well, of course, I wanted to make sure that folks who were just completely new to all of that, who are maybe on the 3D art or graphics side, they feel comfortable and have a way to get involved on making their own creations come to life. Because to me, that is the most exciting thing about Babylon.js and the community, is just how much it really enables your imagination so much. It's crazy.
So I have one anecdotal story to share here, which is, David, do you remember Josh's very first idea? So this is as we're first talking about.
Oh my gosh, yes, I do. Oh yeah, I do.
Okay, so hold on.
I do remember it.
Josh, I love you. I'm going to embarrass you just a little bit. Okay, so in this meeting,
dude, this is a good one.
Josh is saying,
I like it.
Hey, I'm interested in writing a book. We're like, great. What could it be about? And Josh goes, well, what do you think about? Do you think the community would be interested in simulations? And I'm like, sure. Like what?
Why not?
Sure, let's admit. So Josh has built on his own free time what I can only describe as a mathematically accurate simulation of the universe, of gravity and pulse wave modifications with black holes. And I mean, I'm telling you, astrophysics level simulation here. And Josh goes, hey, do you think people would be interested in this? And I'm like, I'm too stupid to talk to you. Like, I can't even understand what I'm seeing here. And so Josh graciously agreed knock it back a step so the book could be approachable to people who are maybe a little bit more beginning their coding journey, let's say.
Clearly, my pitch went over well. No, it was great. I think your feedback was completely on point. But like, it was like it was great that I had that idea and I had the application already sort of there and stuff like that. But it wasn't a great sort of basis to build a book off of. It was not.
I think
that's also the genesis to one of the other things that ended up bedeviling me through the rest of the book was, coming up with an entirely new concept and building that along with the book at the same time.
Yeah, because you're like, well, if I can write a book about a platform I've used using something I've already built, it's fantastic. Yeah. But instead we arrived at, let's start from scratch and then learn how to write a book, and let's start from scratch on writing a game. So
I said I was pretty eager to get to yes, didn't I?
Yeah. Well, to say it worked out well would be, I think, an understatement. So maybe Josh, you could talk a little bit about, as you're kind of starting up, brainstorming the ideas of the Space Truckers game that's covered in the book, and just getting the ball rolling of organizing your thoughts. Maybe you could talk to us a little bit about what role did both the core dev team, and also the community play in helping you formulate those thoughts and even bring the book to fruition?
Yeah, and that's great, because the community, as you kind of alluded to, has really been a great part, not just an asset for creating, but that sort of makes it like a very cold, sterile thing. They've been a very part of the blood, the lifeblood of the book is from the community. So from the very earliest time, I think it was actually in that initial pitch meeting when we ditched the GravWell concept, we brainstormed and came up with the Space Truckers concept. I think I was reaching there. I was really reaching. I didn't want you guys to tell me no, but I knew I had to come up with an idea. I'm like,
what about? Funny, we were thinking the same thing. How do we make sure we don't discourage this guy?
Yeah, I'm thinking, okay, so what can I pitch him? About a desert bus in space. Yeah.
Boom. Deal with that.
Done. Okay. And that's how. And honestly, that's kind of how Space Truckers came about. It was desert bus in space, but hopefully not too boring and more educational.
I remember you had very early on in your pitch process, you were thinking like, yeah, I'm kind of inspired by like Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. And when you said those words, it was just like, done, we're good. Let's go.
Stop there.
Stop there. It kind of.
So it was definitely, I had an aesthetic in mind with the game. Very much takes the sort of the cheekiness of Borderlands and the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, and sort of mixes that with the blandness of Desert Bus, and in a little bit in a humorous way. It would be the idea. Definitely not something that takes itself very seriously.
Yeah.
That's definitely key to it, is not taking myself or the game very seriously.
Which is good.
And maybe to accrue to the question, you use the community by posting question there, like while you were working on the book, right?
Yes. Many questions posted, many great answers and great assistance from the community, both the community and the dev team, I should say too, because while the community was very key in helping ideate a lot of the Space Truckers principles, you can find some of the community contributed concepts for concept art even in the repo there. And that was always very exciting to me, even when it wouldn't match necessarily what I was thinking, my vision. And granted, keep in mind, I don't know, I'm not an art director, so like I just know, that looks cool, or that doesn't look as cool. So no nuance whatsoever. But getting that from the community was amazing, and getting I'd be really thrilled anytime I'd see a new post pop up. But then it was really the dev team that came through when the technical details and the nitty gritty started getting in front of me. That was where the dev team was really just amazingly generous with their time and attention. I was just really gratified for how much they were there for me on that. I mean, I could ping up Jason or Renan or one of the folks on Teams and say, hey, this thing with the inputs device stuff, it ain't working the way that I think it should, or the way the docs say it should. Can you take a look at it? And I just get a response. I mean, or I could post on the forum. There was just so much responsiveness. I think it was very gratifying and very helpful too.
Good. That's definitely a joy to my heart to hear for sure. I think I'll speak on behalf of the entire dev team when I say we know it was a long process to write such a thick book, but yeah, the contribution that we were able to play hopefully brought it to a point where you felt like it really resonated with the greater readership, greater community, and I think the response has been pretty positive. I mean, I know a lot of people were there to support you on launch, and how's the reception of the book been?
How did it work?
I'll start with sort of like the objective facts here. So on Amazon, I think it has a 3.9 or what was it, 5 or 4, almost full stars. There's been a couple less than positive reviews, but all the rest have been very positive. Sales wise, it was actually #1 spot in web and 3D programming for some time. It wasn't that long. I'm not going to pretend it was a long time, but it was some time.
That's a good achievement.
It was a #1 bestseller on Amazon.
Yeah.
What that actually translates out to in numbers, well, much more modest than that. I mean, as it turns out, it doesn't take a whole lot to become a bestseller. In total, the book sales, I don't have the exact number of units that have been shipped off the top of my head here, but it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 or 800, I want to say.
Oh, gosh, that's good.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, that exceeds my expectations by
700 people found.
At least,
wow.
Maybe even 1,000. I mean, depending on how they're accessing and reading it. I mean, my expectations, I would have been happy if 20 people read that book, outside of my immediate family, because of course. Actually, no, my immediate family hasn't read the book.
I was going to say, your immediate family is way more into 3D than mine.
Yeah, not even a little bit. So 20 people would have been great. And to have even 100, that far exceeds, what I expect. I mean, people actually are, picking up something I wrote and finding hopefully utility in it, seems.
Of course.
Yeah, that's cool. Incredible.
Yeah,
and it's interesting. One thing that I want to embarrass you again a little bit about in a positive way here is I think you're probably one of the more patient people that I've met in my life, because you're actively learning how to write a technical book. First time you've done that.
I know where you go.
You know the Babylon platform, but you're also learning more about it much deeper to be able to teach it, because you got to know something to teach it. And while you're doing this, while you're learning and writing your book and structuring it all, you're doing it on a platform that is actively changing, actively evolving every single day.
I remember we shipped Enemy, right?
Yeah.
While you were still working on the book, right? We shipped the Node material editor while working on the book.
Was the GUI editor was another one? Like he had a whole chapter ready to write the Babylon GUI and how you'd write the GUI out in code, and then it's like, ta-da, we have a GUI editor.
Hey, guess what? We have a new tool.
Yeah.
There were a few of those coroutines. I mean, and all of them were welcome developments. I mean, and that's why it was a pleasingly frustrating experience. I know it's a complete oxymoron, but pleasingly frustrating because I love seeing all these great features get released. Frustrating because I really wish I could go back and incorporate that, and really kind of blow the horn and show people that sort of thing. And
so that begs a question.
I just know, though, if I ended up doing that, it's sort of a recursive chain, and you never finish that.
But that begs a question. Where is the second edition then in this case?
I have been doing some work on that. I won't say that there's a lot of work to do on it. And one of the things I'm trying to figure out is how do I update the book and, correct the things that I want to correct and add the things I want to add, without actually writing an entirely new book.
Yeah, exactly right. You just have to be late on that.
Yeah.
But you know what? You guys keep releasing so much new features and so much awesome things. How do I not cover the node geometry editor? How do I not cover all the new stuff in WebGPU? How do you not? I mean, I could go on for hours. I mean, it's every time I see a new release on GitHub for Babylon, I'm glancing through the change set on there. There's always like something in there that I'm just like, dang, that is awesome. They got that in there.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
The fact you have
very much presents a moving target.
You have enemy in, so I will not feel good if I was you if I don't have a version with NGE in as well now.
Yeah. You've got the materials. Now you need the geometry.
Exactly. Because actually I'd covered, I think, all of the different editors except geometry and animation curve editor in the book. Yeah. And so it's great how the team has developed these editors with, and this goes to the post that you put in the forum the other day asking how people are using it. You know, one of the things I love about the editors is that they're consistent experiences from the developer point of view. You know, I don't necessarily need to know how to use the node geometry editor the same way I can use the node material editor, but I know how to use it programmatically. I can ingest that data and I can make use of it without necessarily needing to know all the details of it. And as a developer, that's sort of the sweet spot right there. You can get into a workflow with artists and designers where they're just handing you new snippets and you're putting them in there, and you don't necessarily need to get into those details.
So as you're diving in and you start to learn all about Babylon and you're seeing all the latest updates and everything, let me ask you a question. No right or wrong answer here. You can be bluntly honest with us.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
It's not a trap.
Yeah, I'm looking at Admiral Akbar right now. He's telling me it's a trap.
Not a trap. What, in your opinion, is the greatest thing you would love to see come to Babylon.js that we're still missing?
Oh, it's a trap for me, actually. Okay, I see.
David, what's your weekend going to look like?
Yeah, let me think here. Okay. If I had to pick one thing that it's missing, that is tough. Because there's so many places where it's, you know, it's not necessarily a Babylon.js limitation. It's like a browser limitation where, you know, browser standards haven't caught up. You know, WebXR is a great example of that, where I'd love to see, you know, native WebXR on iOS devices.
Yeah,
me too.
I mean, but that's not realistic. That's
well, we can certainly fight for it. Whether they'll listen or not, we don't know.
Right. So I mean,
I'm gonna stay politically correct.
Just from a realistic standpoint, that's not something we're likely to see anytime soon, especially with Vision and that product line coming out. Apple's not going to be very interested, unfortunately, in making that a priority, I don't think.
Well, it's interesting. The Vision Pro does support WebXR, and we've tested Babylon in the emulator, and you know, we're happy to say that it works. I think there's a degree, though, of to what feature expectation do you have? So, like, while VR works, we think that some of the AR features of WebXR aren't quite supported yet, and so I think, you know, to give Apple some credit, I think that they are making some deployment, some progress into the area of open standard around WebXR. But how long it will take to have full support for the entire spec, we don't know.
It involves unlocking their access to their underlying graphics hardware, which is tough to imagine them doing.
And there's an app ecosystem at play there that we all know is
exactly. If they do that, it really kind of opens the gates on their entire walled ecosystem concept, and that's why it's not likely in my mind.
Yeah. So last question for you real quick. It is holiday season. We're getting into that world, and I would love to know, what is the best holiday gift you've ever given or received?
Ideas for people.
I mean, the best holiday book that you could ever give somebody else would be a copy of Going the Distance with Babylon.js. That would be the best gift.
I agree with you.
Perfect plug.
But if you already have a copy, buy another one.
Right.
For your family gift.
For your family. I mean, you know,
as we've established, all family members love 3D on the web. Yeah.
Who doesn't? And who doesn't either? There's great stories in the book, amusing anecdotes, potentially even funny shenanigans. And we promised there would only be shenanigans later on, so we'll just keep them in the book. The best gift I've ever gotten, I would have to say, is oh gosh, man, I had a couple good ones here on this one, but I'm gonna have to say it was I'm just looking at, maybe it's just because I'm looking at it right now, but this book right here is a woodworking hand tools, and Paul Sellers is if anyone is familiar with him, Jason's nodding his head because he is. Yep. This guy's the OG, hand tool woodworker guy. He's one of the last remaining, woodworking masters, from journeyman apprentice type style that's around, and so he's trying to teach folks how to do that stuff. And I do it as a hobby because I want to kind of stay active and such. And it's just a beautifully done book. So that's one of the best gifts that I've gotten.
That's awesome.
Best gifts I've given. Gosh, I mean, now that I've spent like 5 minutes talking about that, I'm going to seem like a jerk when I talk about it was a gift card. Yeah.
Good. Perfect.
Good one.
Very personal.
Very intimate. No, it's fine. Yes. And what
it would
about
have
you,
to be,
Jason?
no, it
I
have
want
to
to
be a
know for you,
handmade box
Jason.
that I made for my wife more than a couple years back now, 5 or 6 years ago now. It was like just a little dovetailed jewelry box, and one of the sides broke in on it, and so I kind of went with it and made it a flawed jewelry box. It was what do they call it? Not vintage, rustic looking. Yes,
rustic looking.
Oh.
I like it.
Rustic.
But
yeah.
I bet she greatly appreciated it.
She really did like it because it doesn't look like a regular box. It's more like a piece of art. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. I quite love that.
And so you, Jason, what was the best gift you ever received?
Well, I can tell you the one that is the best annual gift, because I get a gift every year from my wife. That's actually a gift that our entire team benefits from. Which is a dad joke of the day calendar. And so I actually have 2 of them because we didn't get through last year's. So every morning at stand-up, our morning stand-up team meeting, we get to hear dad jokes, courtesy of
So that's where they come from.
Yeah, well, that's where some of them come from. Yeah.
Wait.
I know. That's why I didn't say anything. I respected it. I respected it.
I want to share with the community who is listening some inside information of the Babylon team. Every year at Microsoft, in October, we have what we call the giving campaign. So technically, employees are encouraged to give to causes they believe in, right? And Microsoft, most of the time, will double that. So let's say this year I gave some money to Wikipedia, right? And so Microsoft gave as much as I gave, right? So it's a good, interesting stuff. And to make that fun, we have several events. One of them is the auction. So the auction are personal stuff that people do, and you can buy them.
Buy earrings, custom earrings.
Like if I was Josh, I could have offered my book. Like people can buy my book, and instead of giving me the money, they give it to a cause, Microsoft accrue. So at the end of the day, it's a positive stuff. This year, somehow I manipulated Jason, and he offered 1 month of no joke. Like literally, he said, for whoever wants to pay, I will engage to not do a joke for a month. And because I am a good guy, I bite that bullet for the entire Babylon team. I paid $350 that I gave to Wikipedia, right? So Wikipedia appreciated.
That is a
for
steal.
Jason to shut up for a month about his crappy joke that no one can bear anymore.
Guess what? The calendar has not had a joke told since November 3rd.
Oh, that's how you keep track of it.
I have honored the jokes. I have honored it.
2 days, buddy. In 2 days,
technically, that one we were actually behind. Technically, it's December 9th. That's when the dad jokes get to come flying. And had you done it intelligently, you would have said, yeah, I can't keep a backlog of all the jokes. But guess what?
I did not. But lesson learned.
Oh, you got to think of that fine print there, David. That's why it was only 350.
So come December 9th, December 9th at our morning stand-up, it's just going to be a fire hose of kinked up jokes.
10 jokes per day.
That's right. That's exactly right.
All the team members privately pinged me and told me, thank you, David, you saved our mental health.
That's not true. That is a fabrication. That is false.
Everyone.
That is false. I deny that that's the truth. Well, anyway. Let's do this. Let's call it a podcast. Josh, thank you so much for joining us. I do want to do one final plug to the book, which is if you're interested in Babylon.js, if you're interested in learning a new, interesting technology platform, check out his book. It's called Going the Distance with Babylon.js. And I want to say one more tiny thing about it. My personal favorite thing in the book is not just reading and learning and going on the journey of how to understand Babylon. Josh also ends every single chapter with an additional things to think about to challenge you to potentially do with the concepts that you just learned.
Yes.
So there's a summary of what you learned, and then there's a how you can take it even further. And each one of those ideas has gotten the extended topics make my brain spin every time, and I love it. So Josh, thank you for
the fun parts to write.
Thank you for writing the book. Thank you for the energy and passion you've poured into the community, and you continue to pour into the community. And just, on behalf of everybody, thanks for what you do.
Thank you very much. Yes.
Thank you guys for having me, and thank you for all that you do for the community as well. I mean, I wouldn't have much to write about if it weren't for y'all. So keep up the good work.
We'll continue to frustrate you as you continue to write books. How about that?
And then continue to add new features.
Thank you. There's no other way I would want to be frustrated.
Thank you, Josh. Thank you, Josh.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Bye.